In modeling some of the most successful people around the world, one thing stands out very clearly. They all have a compelling future, something that is driving them forward to use their resources in the present moment, today, for something that they want to generate not only today, but even something bigger in the future. Compelling futures are the key to using the resources that you really have. When we talk about personal power, we can't separate the ability to take action from a reason to take actions in the first place. I've always been fascinated by people who I know have the skills to change their life, even people who've learned NLP, who understand how to change their thoughts, who understand how to change their feelings. They know how to make things better, and they know how to take things that are limiting them and change them. But most of them don't. Most of them do not use their skills. Why? When I looked at that and I looked at my own life and I thought, I am using these, I am making a difference. What's the difference between us? And I think the difference is a compelling future, a reason to do what you know you can do with your life, a purpose. It's one thing to know how to change your life, and that's the first step to creating change. The second key, once you know how, is to have a reason to do so. You've got to have a why, a goal, a passion that is big enough to drive you to use your resources when you need them. Recently, a man came to interview me from a national financial magazine, and the purpose of his article was to document what it was that allowed certain people at a young age to develop financial independence. And in his interview with me, I shared with him the importance of simply modeling people who are successful financially. I told him that in order to succeed financially, one needs merely find someone who's successful, find out what they're doing, and do the exact same things. He said, well, that sounds really great and real easy for you, and all the people I've interviewed like you say it's easy. I say, well, it's not easy, but it is simple. He said, well, that may be simple for you, but it isn't for the rest of us. You're just gifted. You're just lucky. I said, sir, I'm not gifted. I'm not lucky. He said, but look how motivated you are in your life. You're passionate about making things happen. He said, I just don't have that gift, and I don't think the average person does either. I said the difference between me and other people, the reason I've used all of my resources to produce not only financial gain, but emotional, social, spiritual gain for both myself and other people, is because I've got a reason to do it. I'm driven. I've constantly and consistently set goals for my life. And I told him that goal setting to me is the most important tool that you have. It is the reason to use all that you are. It gives purpose to all human activity. And human beings are goal-seeking individuals. When we aren't seeking a goal, when we aren't making progress in the direction of something we desire, we begin to stagnate. And we're all either growing or dying. There's no in between. Besides, the purpose of goals is not to achieve them. The purpose of the goals is in pursuit of a goal, we become even more than we were. And when a bee chases after the nectar in a flower, it doesn't realize that the processional effect is that it pollinates the flowers and allows them to multiply. I think the same thing is true with human beings. Oftentimes we have a goal to develop ourselves in business or to develop our economics. While we're going for that building of the business, there's the processional effect of jobs that we create, the processional effect of new possibilities in people's thinking, the processional effects of things that we aren't even aware of yet. So goals are really, in my mind, what makes the world go round. They give us the reasons, they give us the purpose to take consistent action. Without them, people are listless, and the quality of a person's emotional life begins to deteriorate. When people have no goals, no direction, when there's nothing they're working for, oftentimes they feel down or depressed, and then they begin to try and change those emotions by overeating or doing something else to make momentary change. The only way that life changes long-term is by having long-term goals. There was a phenomenal study done in 1953 at Yale University where researchers interviewed the graduating members of the class and asked them about their goals, asked them if they had a set of written goals for their life with a plan for their achievement. Less than 3% of the graduates of that year had such a goal list or such a plan. An interesting follow-up was done to the study in 1973, almost 20 years later, and the researchers discovered many unique things about this class. They noticed that the group that had goals seemed to be better adjusted emotionally, socially, and in their families. They've also found a measurable difference in economics. 20 years later, the 3% that had written goals when they left the university were worth more in financial terms than all 97% of the class members combined. This is the measurable difference in setting goals and creating directions. So how do we explain there being this much of a difference just because someone has something they're going for? When you make it clear to your mind what it is you want through goal setting, what it does is activate your internal success system, which causes you to take everything that you see, hear, and do in life and become much more aware of how it relates to your purpose. In fact, when you experience goals in advance in enough detail, you literally program them into your nervous system and make them possible. Let me give you an example, something you can try right now in your experience to notice how, by experiencing the goals you want in advance in your mind, you actually begin to make them a reality. Try the following things. Stand up, if you will, if you're not already. Put your feet so they're pointed straight in front of you. Put your right hand pointing straight ahead with one finger pointing straight in front of you. And what I'd like you to do is just gradually begin to turn to the right without turning your legs, without turning your feet, that is. Keep turning until you comfortably stop behind you. And notice where your finger is pointing on the wall. Don't hurt yourself. Don't stretch. Just go to where it's comfortable. And then come back around. Now, let's create some goals and experience them as being real. Close your eyes. And in your mind, I want you to pretend as if and feel as if your finger is pointing in front of you, and feel yourself turning without actually doing it, just imagining it in your mind, until you go much further than you stopped the first time. Go ahead and try that. Just imagine your finger pointing out, and feel as if you're turning, and you turn easily, and you've turned much further than you did the first time. And feel how much further you go. Now, open your eyes. Put your finger in front of you, and now do it for real. See how far you go this time. Go ahead and turn all the way comfortably as far as you can. I think you'll notice, much to your surprise maybe, that you can go a good 25 to 50% farther after you've traced the same experience in your mind in advance. You've literally programmed your nervous system. The same thing happens when you start to take goals and make them real. My life changed not only when I learned how to direct my nervous system, but when I gave myself reasons to do so. When I gave myself something I could get passionate about that would drive me. 3 years ago, when things were not going well, the place I started when I got disgusted with where I was in my life was goal setting. What I did is I sat down and I went through a process that I'll share with you, a process of asking myself questions and making distinctions until I had a clear-cut game plan for what I wanted to accomplish in my life. First, let's go through a couple key fundamentals about goals that are really critical to know. Some people say the key to getting whatever you want is real simple. How to get whatever you want. Right there at the top of your notes, and as soon as you've got it written down, look up and assume the physiology where you can write very, very rapidly. I've got a lot to give you here. I don't want you to miss any of it. How to get whatever you want. Here we go. Ask. End of notes. In fact, the formula is pretty powerful. It says, ask and you shall receive. Yeah, with a formula like that, you think more people would look into it. How many of you believe the formula works? Let me see a show of hands. All of you, great. How many of you have all that you want? So what's the problem? Failure to what? They already asked. So some people, what is it? I've been asking and I'm still not receiving. Or maybe you're not asking intelligently. I know the Bible didn't say ask intelligently, but I'm sure that's what it meant. And my first teacher taught me that. He said, you got to ask intelligently. And he taught me a few things about asking intelligently, and over the years I've added a few of my own. Asking intelligently, I think, requires asking in 5 ways. There are 5 keys to asking intelligently. The formula was not bitch and you will receive. You know, it's called ask and you will receive, but you got to ask intelligently. And bitching is not asking intelligently. Neither is whining, complaining, mumbling, or grumbling. Okay, here are the 5 keys to asking intelligently. Number 1, ask specifically. Ask specifically for what you want. Don't beat around the bush. Be precise. Who, when, where, how, what do you want? Specifically, define it. Be precise. The more precise you are, the more you empower your own brain to assist you with the resources you'll need to manifest that result that you desire, as well as you'll be able to communicate to other people what your wants are. And they'll be able to help you more effectively. So number one, you must ask specifically. Number two, you must ask someone who can help you. When I first got taught about asking, no one told me this one. You got to ask somebody who will help you, who has the ability to help you. A lot of people want to, but they don't have the ability. So you say, oh, I asked and I didn't receive. You didn't ask intelligent. You got to ask someone who has the ability to help you. For example, if you have terrible personal relationships, would you go to somebody else who has terrible personal relationships and say, hey, teach me what I could do to change my relationships? Doesn't make any sense, does it? And then you asked and it didn't work because you didn't ask intelligently. Would you go to somebody who makes $30,000 a year and say, loan me $3 million, will you? They're going to go, $3 million what? Right? You got to go to somebody who has the ability to help, okay? Here's the third key. Create value for this person first. Don't just ask and expect them to give you something. Intelligent asking is you try and find a way to fill their needs first, or a way to connect the two. Maybe what you're going to do is just fill a need. Say, look, if you support me this way, it'll support something that you're involved in, that you feel is important. I know by what I know about you. Maybe you try and do something for them. I know one of my friends met a man. He wanted to become a millionaire, and he found a way that he could make this man $4 million. So I went to him and he said, listen, I know that I can make you $4 million in the next 2 years. And guess how many times this guy probably heard this story, right? He said, but let me tell you something. I have no strings attached. I'll work for free for 2 years. I'll support myself in other ways. But if I make you $4 million, I want you to promise me that you'll give me one. What do you think the guy said? Of course, you're going to work for 2 years? And he said, what happens if you don't make me $4 million? You pay me nothing. He said, you got a deal. He ended up making the guy $8 million, and the man paid him $2 million. Because he created value first. That's called intelligent asking. Don't just say, give me this. Figure out how you can fill their needs and then ask. Okay? Fourth key. You must ask with congruent belief. As you really got to believe that they're going to say yes. If you don't believe they're going to say yes, they're not going to say yes. Because when you ask, your lack of belief will come through. You say, you wouldn't want to help me, would you? And that's not going to assist them. But if you absolutely believe they're going to say yes, and you believe so strongly, then they'll get that. And they'll begin to think, well, maybe, I guess, he must have a reason. They begin to believe that they really should do this. Your belief can affect their beliefs. Your belief can affect their behavior. So you want to get really congruent where you absolutely believe they can't say no. Now, the best way to do that is make sure you're adding so much more value than you're asking for that you know they can't afford to say anything but yes. Okay? And the last one, number 5, a lot of people do the first 4, but they don't do number 5, and that is ask until. There's a neat phrase that I think Dr. Schuller came up with. He said, God's delays are not God's denials. So if you ask, you don't receive right now, just keep asking. Asking intelligently means ask over and over again. Ask in a different way. Have sensory acuity. Don't ask the same person the same thing 8 million times. Maybe it's time you try to ask somebody else. Ask another company. Ask another organization. But ask until. See? That's what makes the biggest difference. This is how we effectively ask. Just as there are 5 keys to asking, another way of talking about goals that I think is even more effective in programming our nervous system is to call them outcomes. Because truly, how do you feel about goals? Do you always achieve your goals? Probably not. Do you always achieve an outcome? The answer there is probably yes. No matter what the situation is that you're going for, you always produce a result or an outcome. So when you use the word outcome, it creates more certainty in your nervous system and provides a greater sense of certainty that you will achieve this thing you're talking about. Now, just as there are 5 keys for asking for what you want, I consider to be 5 elements to effective outcome development, to developing an outcome that is truly achievable. And here they are. Number 1, state your outcome in positive terms. Say what you want to happen. Too often people say what they don't want to happen. They set outcomes like, I want to stop smoking. The challenge with that, of course, is by making that your outcome, you begin to focus on what you don't want. And whatever you focus on consistently, you'll create in your experience of life. So make certain you trade that for, I am now a non-smoker, or I've traded smoking for breathing, or some other positive way of stating what you now want and what you will experience in your nervous system. 2, be as specific as possible. As I just stated, you need to know, how does your outcome look? How does it sound? How does it feel? How does it smell? You want to engage all of your senses in describing the result that you want. The more sensory rich your description of what you want, the more you'll empower your brain to create what you desire. Remember, when you imagined in your mind turning your body and going further than before, and you really associated to it, and you felt as if it was true, and you saw it as being true, it became true in your real life experience. The same thing is true in setting effective outcomes. You must daily experience the reality of your outcome already being true. You should set a certain completion date for your desired outcome. However, you also want to experience it as already being a reality, so that your brain and nervous system produce whatever actions are necessary to create that result. Number 3, you've got to have an evidence procedure. You've got to know, how will you look? How will you feel? What will you see? And what will you hear in your external world after you've achieved your outcome? If you don't know how you'll know when you've achieved your outcome, then how do you know you don't already have it? Sometimes people are winning and they feel like they're losing just because they don't keep score. Many goals people have, they've already achieved, and they don't even realize it because they haven't been specific about how they'll know when they've got it. For example, many times when I talk with people and I ask them what their goals are in life, they give me very, very general examples. Like they say things like, I want more money. So I go, fine, here's $2, get out of here. You've got to be much more specific than that. Because the truth is, they probably have got more money. They got their goal. They just don't know it because they're not very specific about it, and they don't have an evidence procedure for it. Or people say to me oftentimes things like, well, Mr. Robbins, I just like to be happier, or I just like to have peace of mind. Those outcomes are not stated specifically enough. They're very general. In fact, I often say that human language has 3 forms. There's a form called fluff, there's a form called super fluff, and then there's sensory specific language. Let me explain to you the differences. If you were to look across the room at me and you saw me sitting in a chair with my right leg crossed over my left, my head tilted slightly to the right, breathing comfortably with my shoulders relaxed. If you were to look at me and describe me by saying, Tony is sitting in the chair across from me, his right leg is crossed over his left, his head is tilted slightly to the right, he's breathing in a relaxed way, his shoulders are relaxed, then you would be using sensory-based descriptions of how I am in this moment. Meaning you would not be interpreting or hallucinating about my experience or how I was feeling. You would just be describing exactly what was going on, and anyone who heard that description could get a picture of exactly how I was in that moment. If instead you looked at me and said, Tony looks happy, Tony looks sad, Tony looks excited, Tony seems joyous, all of those are what we call fluff words, meaning you are describing things based upon your interpretation, and you don't know if that's what I'm feeling just by a look. You can guess, but you don't know for sure. If you looked at me and you said, well, he's kind of like into it today, or I think he got it, or I think, he's kind of like aligned with all that's going on. Those are super generalizations, or what I call super fluff. Now, all of them have their place in human experience. But those kinds of generalizations will not help you if you set goals in that way. You've got to be very specific about what you want so that there's no possibility of misinterpretation. You've got to be so precise in not only what you want, but how will you know when you've got it. For example, do you have the goal of being happy? Well, if that's your goal, I can give it to you right now. It's very simple. Try this. Right now, sit the way you'd be sitting if you felt totally and completely happy. Come on, go ahead and do it. And breathe the way you'd be breathing if you felt totally happy. And say something to yourself in your own mind the way you'd be saying things to yourself if you were totally happy. See what you'd be seeing if you felt totally happy. Make your face look like what it would look like if it was totally happy. Come on, does your face look that way now? Good. Now notice how you feel. Breathe that way, speak that way, see yourself that way, sit the way you feel if you're totally happy. And notice, if you've done this effectively and you're not saying something in your mind like, oh, this is ridiculous, if you're saying you're really happy, you're using that tone of voice and moving your body that way, you'll feel totally happy. So cross that one off your goals list. You've got happiness. I'm not trying to be facetious. I want to be accurate. See, most people don't have an evidence procedure for happiness. Happiness is a state. You can go into any state, any moment in time that you want to. Somebody says, well, what about peace of mind? I've been chasing that for years. That's easy. Let's try it. Sit the way you'd be sitting right now if you felt total peace of mind. Breathe the way you'd be breathing if you felt total peace of mind. See what you'd be seeing in your mind if you felt total peace of mind. Hear what you'd be hearing if you felt total peace of mind. Have your face look like what it would look like if you right now felt total peace of mind. And I think if you're doing this effectively now, you'll find you'll feel total peace of mind. So cross that one off your goals list. The truth of the matter is, if you have an evidence procedure and you know what it is that allows you to be in peace of mind, and you know how you are when you're feeling peace of mind, then you can go there right away. You don't have to beat around the bush. Clarity is power. Make sure you have an evidence procedure. Here's number 4 for creating an achievable outcome. Be in control. Make sure your outcome is something that you initiate and maintain. Make sure it's not dependent upon other people having to change themselves for you to be happy. That's not an effective outcome. Make sure your outcome reflects things that you can affect directly. And you can affect directly how you behave and how you feel, and that can impact other people. And that's fine. But make sure that in order to achieve your goal, it doesn't require you change other people, but rather that you direct your own emotion, your own communication, and your own behavior. Number 5, verify that your outcome is something that you really truly want. Make sure it's ecological and desirable. What do I mean by ecological? Well, ecology is really the study of consequences. Many times when we set out on a goal, we don't look at the consequences long-term in our lives, and we really need to do that. See, if your goal is to become a super successful person in financial terms, there's a cost for that. And it's a cost of a certain amount of time. And if you also have a goal of being the best parent in the world, there's a cost to that too. And best you look at how the goals you're setting now are going to impact you long-term to make sure they're what you really want, not just in the moment out of your excitement, but something you can commit to and you'll be happy with the result of. The best way to find out whether a goal or an outcome is ecological is to simply imagine that it's already achieved and step into the future and look around you and see how does achieving this goal or how does pursuing this goal affect your family, your friends, yourself. What kind of person are you having to become to create all that you want? Are you moving in the direction emotionally, socially, spiritually, physiologically, and financially that you really want to go? Take a look at the impact. And if it's something that you really want inside and you're committed to it and you like the effect it's having and you like the effect that it's creating, now you know you have an outcome that is truly achievable.
This is the end of side 5. Please fast forward the tape to begin side 6.
I always ask questions in my seminars, and I want to ask you one right now. If you knew it would be impossible for you to fail, what would you attempt to do right now in your life? If you were absolutely certain of success, what activities would you pursue? What actions would you take? All of us have some idea of the things we want. Some are vague: more love, more money, more time to enjoy life. However, to empower our biocomputers to create a result, we need to become more specific than a new car, a new house, a better job. As we go through the following 12-step process for goal setting, and you begin to create your list, some of the things you'll write down will be things you've thought about for years. Some of the things will be things you've never consciously formulated before. But what you need to do is consciously decide what you want right now. Goal setting simply comes down to that, doing it. So rather than continue to talk about it, let's go through a 12-step process. I'll give you the question. With your paper and pencil, write down the answers, and by the way, get excited. There is something magical that happens when you begin to change your internal idea of what you want and externalize it with pencil and paper. So let's begin the 12 steps. Step 1. Start by making an inventory of your dreams, the things you want to have, be, do, and share. I want you right now to create the people, the feelings, the places you want to be a part of your life. Sit down right now, grab your paper and pen, and begin writing. The key is to commit your pen moving nonstop for no less than 10 to 15 minutes. Don't try to find how you're going to get this outcome that you want right now, and don't put any limits on it. Act as if whatever you're writing down you know you can achieve. It's a Christmas list, if you will. Just write it all down. There are no limits. Abbreviate whenever possible so you can immediately get on to the next goal. Keep your pen moving for the entire time. Take as long as you need to put together this broad sampling of outcomes that you desire for your life. You can do it in several ways. You can just make one big list, or you can take several pieces of paper and put on one emotional goals, another one spiritual goals, another one physiological goals, another one financial goals, family goals, material goals. And you might take those 5 or 6 pages and begin to take a time for each of the pages. Remember, everything is within your grasp. Knowing your outcome is the first key to reaching it. By the way, goal setting is like play. Let your mind roam free, and whatever limitations you've had in the past, remember you've created them, and they only exist in your mind. So right now, we're going to change your representation of what your future is and what you're capable of. The list you're going to make is for all the things that you'd ever want to achieve for the next 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years of your life. Put no limits on this list. Just create the giant grab bag of outcomes you desire for your life. Where would you like to go? What would you like to do? What would you like to create? Who would you like to visit with? What kind of person would you like to become? How much money would you like to have? Would you like to have a yacht? Would you like to live certain places? What would you like your children to be like? Make the list covering every aspect of life. Stop the tape now and begin writing your list. Welcome back. So did you develop a huge list? Did you cover all the areas of your life? Emotional, social, spiritual, physiological, financial? I hope you just didn't keep listening to this tape, because that won't do you any good at all. Stopping and taking the time was what it finally comes down to. Some people say, but I don't know what I want. I don't have any ideas. You'd be surprised when you start making a list. One of the easiest ways to get some ideas is get around where people are doing very, very well and let something hit you. That's part of how passion is created in life. That's part of how you set new goals, by trying new things. But right now, you should have a substantial list to start with, so let's go on to the next step. Let's do a second exercise. Go over the list you've made and estimate when you expect to reach these outcomes. Over 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. Just write the number next to the goal. Don't take a lot of time again. Do it very, very quickly. It's helpful to see what sort of time frame you're operating in. After you've made your list, make a note of how your list came out. Some people find that their list may be dominated by things that they want today. Others find that their greatest dreams are far in the future, in some imagined period of total achievement and fulfillment. If all your goals are short-term, you need to start taking a longer view of your potential possibility. If all your goals are long-term, you need to first develop some steps that can lead you in the direction you expect to go. Remember, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's important to be aware of both the first steps and the final ones. Stop the tape and figure out your timelines now. What did you discover? Are most of your goals short-term or long-term, or is there a balance? Hopefully this will give you an idea of where you need to focus in your goal-setting development. Let's move on to step 3. Now I want you to try something else. I want you to pick out the 5 most important goals for you for this year. Pick the things that you're most committed to, the things you're most excited about, the things that would give you the most satisfaction. Write them down right now. We're looking for the things that can generate the passion, the things that can drive you to use all the skills you have as a human being. And once you've done that, I want you to also to write at least a paragraph about why you will absolutely achieve these 5 outcomes. I want you to sell yourself on the reasons of why it's important that you do. One of my first teachers, Jim Rohn, taught me that if you can find enough reasons to do something, you can get yourself to do anything. Our purpose in doing something is a much stronger motivator than the object that we're pursuing. So get yourself some reasons. Reasons are the difference between being interested versus being committed to accomplishing something. There are many things in life we say we want, but we're only really interested in them for a short time. In order for outcomes to be achieved, we must be totally committed to do whatever it takes to achieve them. If, for example, you just say you want to be rich, well, that's a goal, but it doesn't tell your brain very much. If you understand why you want to be rich, what being wealthy would mean to you, you'll be much more motivated to get there. Why to do something is much more important than how to do it. If you get a big enough why, you can always figure out how to do something. If you have enough reasons, you can virtually do anything in this world. So turn the tape off now, select your 5 outcomes, and create a paragraph in each one as to why you absolutely will do whatever it takes to achieve them this year. Welcome back again. Do you have the 5 goals that you can be passionate about? Are you clear about your reasons? Now you have a direction that you can move in. So let's move to step 4. Now that you have a list of your key goals, review them against the 5 rules for formulating outcomes. Are your goals stated in the positive? Are they sensory specific? Do they have a clear evidence procedure? Describe what you will experience when you achieve them in even clearer sensory terms. What will you see, hear, feel, and smell? Also note if the goals are maintainable by you. Are you in control? Are they ecological and desirable for you and others? If they violate any of these conditions, change them so they fit. And then let's move on to step 5. Next, make a list of the most important resources you already have at your disposal that could help you to achieve these goals. When you begin a construction project, you need to know which tools you have. To construct an empowering vision of your future, you need to do the same thing. So make a list of what you already have going for you: character traits, friends, financial resources, education, time, energy, or whatever. Come up with an inventory of strengths, skills, resources, and tools. Turn the tape off now and take this seriously. Create a resource list that you can pull from in the future and that you're consciously aware of now. How did your resource list come out? Did you have more resources than you realized? Most of us do. Let's move on to step 6. Let's focus in on some times when you use some of these resources most skillfully. I'd like you to take a moment now and come up with 3 to 5 times in your life when you were totally successful at doing something. Think of the times in business or sports or financial matters, or maybe even relationships, when you did something particularly well. And it can be anything from a killing in the stock market to a wonderful day with your kids. And I want you to write these 3 to 5 experiences down and describe what you did that made you succeed. What were the qualities or resources that you made effective use of in order to make the situation successful? Turn off the tape and do this now. Few of us take the time to analyze their successes. Most people are busy reviewing their past failures over and over again. You might even want to take a moment at some point to take these experiences of the past that you felt so good about and enhance them by making them bigger, brighter, more focused, bringing them closer to you. Now, after we've done all that, let's take a moment and have you describe the kind of person that you would have to become to attain all of your outcomes. Will it take a great deal of discipline, a great deal of education? Would you have to manage your time well? If, for example, you want to be a civic leader who really makes a difference, describe what kind of person gets elected and really has the ability to affect large numbers of people. We hear a lot about success, but we don't hear as much about the components of success, the attitudes, the beliefs, and behaviors that go into producing it. If you don't have a good grasp of the components, you may find it difficult to put together the whole. So stop now and write a couple of paragraphs or a page about all the character traits, skills, attitudes, beliefs, and disciplines you need to have to be the kind of person who could achieve all that you desire. Take the time and do it now. As you review your description of this person, is this the kind of person you really want to become? If it is, you have goals that will truly cause you to be happy long term. Let's do step number 8. Next, in a few paragraphs, I want you to write down what prevents you from having the things you desire right now. One way to overcome limitations you've created in the past is to know exactly what they are. Dissect your personality to see what's been holding you back from achieving what you wanted in the past. Have you failed to plan? Did you plan but fail to act? Did you try to do too many things at one time? In the past, have you imagined the worst possible scenario and then allowed that internal representation to stop you from taking action? Stop the tape, take a moment now, and describe the things that have stopped you in the past so you can change them in the present and in the future. We can know what we want, why we want it, and who will help us, and a lot of other things, but the critical ingredient that in the end determines whether we succeed in achieving our outcomes is our actions. To guide our actions, we must create a step-by-step plan. When you build a house, you don't just go out and get a pile of wood, some nails, a hammer, and a saw, and then start to go to work. Would you just start sawing and hammering and see what came out? Would that lead to success? It's highly unlikely. To build a house, you need a blueprint. You need a plan. You need a sequence and a structure so your actions complement and reinforce one another. Otherwise, you'll just have a wild assemblage of boards. It's the same with life. So right now, you need to put together your own blueprint for success. What are the necessary actions that you must take consistently to produce the result you desire? If you're not sure, think of someone you can model, someone who's already accomplished what you desire. How do you establish a plan? Well, first you start with your ultimate outcome, and then you work backwards step by step. If one of your major outcomes is to become financially independent, then the step before that might be to become president of your company. The step before that might become vice president or another important officer. Another step might be to find a smart investment counselor and or a tax lawyer. It's critical that you continue to work backwards from your goals until you find something that you can do today to support the achievement of that goal. Maybe today you can go and open a savings account, or you can get a book that teaches you some of the financial strategies of successful people in our culture. If you want to be a professional dancer, what do you have to do to reach that outcome? What are the major steps, and what are some of the things you can do today, tomorrow, this week, this month, this year to produce that result? If you want to be the greatest composer in the world, what are the steps along the way? By working backwards, step by step, for your outcomes and everything from business to your personal life, you can map out a precise path to follow from your ultimate goals down to what you can do today. Use the information you got in this last exercise about what has stopped you in the past to guide the design of your plan. If you're not sure what your plan should be, just ask yourself, what prevents you from having what you want? The answer to that question will probably be something you can work on immediately to change. The solving of that problem becomes a sub-goal or a stepping stone to the achievement of your better goals. So step 9 is this. Take the time now to take each of your goals and create your first draft of a step-by-step plan on how to achieve it. Remember to start with a goal and ask yourself, what would I have to do first to accomplish this? Or what prevents me from having this now, and what can I do to change this? Make sure your plans include something you can do today. Go ahead and do this now. Welcome back. So far, we've completed the first part of that ultimate success formula we talked about earlier. You absolutely know your outcomes. You defined your outcomes over both the short and long term, and you defined which aspects of your personality help you and which have hindered you from getting what you wanted in the past. Now I want you to start developing a strategy for how to get there. What's the surest way to achieve excellence? It's, of course, to model someone who's already done what you want to do. So step 10 is simple. Come up with some models. They can be people from your life, or they can be famous people who have achieved great success. Right now, write down the names of 3 to 5 people who've achieved what you want to achieve, and specify in a few words the qualities and behaviors that make them successful. After you've done this, close your eyes and imagine for a moment that each of these people is going to give you some advice about how to best go about accomplishing your goals. Write down one main idea that each of these people would give you if he or she was speaking to you personally. Maybe it's about how to avoid a roadblock or break through a limitation or what to pay attention to. Just imagine that they're talking to you and jot down under each of their names the first idea that comes to you about what you think each one of them would say to you. Even though you may not know them personally, this process can become an excellent advisors committee for your future. You know, Adnan Khashoggi modeled Rockefeller. He wanted to be a wealthy, successful businessman, so he modeled someone who had done what he wanted to do. Steven Spielberg modeled people at Universal Studios even before he was hired. Virtually everyone who's been a great success has had a model or a mentor or a teacher who guided him or her in the right direction. Now you have a clear internal representation of where you want to go. You can save time and energy and avoid traveling down wrong paths by following the examples of people who've succeeded already. You can learn by their experience. If you're having challenges coming up with a list, just ask yourself, who are the people in your own life who serve as models? There are resources in your friends, your family, national leaders, celebrities. If you don't know any good models, you should make a point of going out and finding some now. Next, get a clear idea of your future. Get a clear idea of some of the goals that you want to accomplish and know that you'll accomplish. And use some of the methods that you've already learned. Right now, enlarge the pictures, make it brighter, make it more focused, step into it and more fully associate. If you'll do this on a regular, consistent basis, you will embed into your nervous system your desire. You will program what you want, and your biocomputer, your brain, will do whatever it takes to produce that result. Let's move on to the last 2 processes. Step number 11. It's great to have all kinds of different goals, but what's even nicer is to find a way to put them all together so they dovetail or support each other. The best way to do this is to create your ideal day. Let's do that now. What people would be involved? What would you do? How would it begin? Where would you go? Where would you be? Do it from the time you get up to the time you go to sleep at night. What kind of environment would you be in? How would you feel when you climbed into bed at the end of a perfect day? Use your pen and paper and describe it in detail. Remember, all the results, actions, and realities we experience start from creations in our minds. So create your day the way you desire it most. Stop the tape, have fun, and do this now. How was your day? Did you associate to it fully? Can you imagine living a day like that and what it would be like? Great. Let's do the final step, step 12. Sometimes we forget that dreams begin at home. We forget that the first step towards success is providing ourselves with an atmosphere that nurtures our creativity and really helps us to be everything we can be. So finally, I want you to design your perfect environment. I want you to accentuate your sense of place. I want you to let your mind go. There are no limitations. Whatever you want, you should put it down in writing. Remember to think like a king. Design an environment that would bring out the best of you as a person. Where would you be? In the woods? By the ocean? In an office? What tools would you have? An art pad, paints, music, a computer, a telephone, a stereo? What support people would you have around you to make sure you achieved and created all that you desired? If you don't have a clear representation of what your ideal day would be, What are your chances of creating it? If you don't know what your ideal environment would be, how would you create that? All the results in the world start with changes of the world inside of you. Remember, the brain needs clear, direct signals of what it wants to achieve. Your mind has the power to give you everything you want, but can only do that if it gets clear, bright, intense, focused signals. Henry Ford once said, "Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is the probable reason why so few people engage in it." My compliments to you for doing the exercises in this portion of the tape. These exercises could be one of the most important steps you've taken toward producing the unmistakable brain signals that produce the results you want. You can't reach your outcomes if you don't know what it is. If you get anything at all from this portion of the tape, it should be this: results are inevitable. If you don't provide your mind with the programming of the results you desire, someone else will provide the programming for you. If you don't have your own plan for your life, someone else is going to make you fit into their plan. If all you did was listen to this tape, you've wasted your time. It's imperative that you take the time to do each of these exercises. They may not be easy at first, but believe me, they're worth it. And as you begin to do them, they become more and more fun. One of the reasons most people don't do well in life is because success is usually disguised behind hard work. And goal setting or outcome development is hard work. It's easy for people to put things like this off and get trapped into making a living instead of designing their lives. Exert your personal power now and take the time to discipline yourself to fully complete these exercises if you haven't already. It's been said that there are only two pains in life. One is the pain of discipline, the other the pain of regret. And that discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons. There's a great deal of excitement to be gained by applying these 12 principles. Do this for yourself, and do it again later on in a few months and see if you have the same goals, the same desires, because goals do change, and you should have the flexibility to give yourself new choices. Before we go, we should do one final thing, and that is make a list of the activities and the people of your life that you're most grateful for, the resources you already have available to you. I call this a gratitude diary. Some people get so fixated on what they want, they fail to appreciate or use what they already have. The first step toward a goal is seeing what you have, give thanks for it, and applying it to your future achievements. Remember, we all have ways to make our lives better at any moment. Achieving your wildest dreams should begin today with the everyday steps that can put you on the right path. Shakespeare once wrote, "Action is eloquence." Begin today with eloquent actions that will lead you to even more eloquent outcomes. Make your dreams a reality.